Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive? Today we're going to be taking a look at Jordan B. Peterson's Maps of Meaning.
Oh, yeah, I love that book.
It's a really fascinating exploration of how we create meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Connecting those ancient myths to modern psychology and
Oh,
even neuroscience. It's like this journey to uncover the hidden patterns
yeah,
in our beliefs and behaviors.
definitely.
We might even learn something about ourselves along the way.
Absolutely. And, it's so interesting how Peterson starts the book.
Oh, how's that?
Well, he talks about his own youthful rebellion against, his religious upbringing
Mm-hmm.
and how that led him to question everything, especially the big questions about good and evil,
Right.
especially in political systems.
Yeah, I think a lot of us can relate to that.
Absolutely.
Like we inherit these beliefs from our families and our cultures, but then life happens
Right.
and you start to wonder if those beliefs still hold up.
Exactly. And what Peterson found was that political science,
Mm.
at least at the time, didn't really seem to address those deeper questions about values
Right.
and meaning. So that's what sent him on this search for answers in like these unexpected places.
Okay, so how did he go from like questioning politics to studying myths?
That's a big leap.
It does seem like a big leap, yeah.
Well, his big idea is that myths aren't just stories.
Okay.
They're actually maps of meaning.
Maps of meaning.
Yeah, think of them like those ancient guidebooks
Okay.
for navigating the unknown,
Okay.
for making sense of the world's complexities.
So instead of just explaining like historical events or whatever,
Right,
myths are giving us instructions for how to live.
exactly. They show us what's important, what's dangerous, and how to act when facing both.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah, and what's even cooler is that these maps often operate on like a subconscious level.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they shape our beliefs and behaviors without us even realizing it.
So you're saying we're all kind of living out these ancient myths?
In a way, yeah. Like
Mhm.
take the hero's journey, for example.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, that classic story arc
Yeah.
that shows up in myths and stories across cultures.
Right.
And it also reflects like this deep psychological pattern
Mm.
in human behavior.
Yeah, like the hero leaving their comfort zone,
Right.
facing challenges, overcoming obstacles, and returning home transformed.
Exactly. We
Yeah.
see that everywhere,
Yeah,
from movies to personal growth narratives.
for sure.
And Peterson argues that this pattern isn't just a coincidence.
Okay.
It reflects like a fundamental truth
Yeah.
about human nature.
Okay.
We're wired for growth and transformation,
Mm-hmm.
for confronting the unknown and expanding our understanding.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But how does neuroscience fit into all of this?
That's a good question.
Like we were talking about ancient myths, now we're talking about the brain.
Well, Peterson also explores the biological basis of belief.
Okay.
He talks about the orienting reflex,
Hi.
which is how our brains are wired to react to novelty and the unexpected. Like, have you ever been walking down a dark street and suddenly you hear a noise
Oh, yeah, definitely.
and it startles you?
Uh-huh.
Like your heart starts racing.
Oh, yeah, totally.
You jump a little,
Yep.
and you're immediately trying to figure out like what caused the sound.
Right.
That's your orienting reflex kicking in.
Okay.
Peterson uses this really interesting example of an elevator
Okay.
to explain it. So imagine you're heading to an important meeting.
Huh?
You have it all planned out.
Yep.
But suddenly the elevator breaks down.
Oh, no.
So you're stuck.
Right.
Your plan's disrupted.
Yeah.
And you got to figure out a new way to get to your meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I can see where the fear and uncertainty come in.
Exactly. That's what Peterson's getting at.
Hmm.
Myths help us manage that fear of the unknown
Okay.
by giving us these predetermined maps for those situations.
Okay, so it's like having a set of instructions
Right.
for dealing with life's curveballs,
Yeah,
except the instructions come from ancient stories.
precisely. And those instructions often come in the form of archetypes.
Archetypes.
Yeah, maps of meaning. Peterson focuses on three main ones:
Okay.
the great mother,
Okay.
the great father,
Uh-huh.
and the hero.
Okay, so who are these archetypal figures and what do they represent?
Well, the great mother represents nature, chaos,
Okay.
the unknown. Think of Tiamat, the Babylonian chaos
Oh,
monster.
yeah.
And the great father represents culture, order,
Okay.
and the known. He's like Marduk, the hero who confronts Tiamat and brings order to the cosmos.
I see. So the hero is the one who mediates between those two forces.
Exactly. Think about Osiris, the Egyptian god of order,
Okay.
and his son Horus,
Uh-huh.
who avenges his death and restores balance to the world.
Right.
So the hero ventures into the unknown,
Yeah.
confronts chaos, and returns with this new knowledge and experience that enriches the world.
Wow. So, it makes me think about how these ancient myths
Yeah.
are still relevant today.
Oh, absolutely.
We're always facing challenges and uncertainties in our own lives,
Right.
and we're always looking for ways to make sense of them.
Exactly. And even though these myths might seem like ancient
Yeah.
and removed from our modern lives,
Right.
the patterns they describe are still very much alive in our psyches.
Wow.
They show up in our stories, our dreams, our relationships, even our political systems.
So if these myths are maps,
Yeah.
then learning to read them can actually help us navigate our own lives.
That's the idea. By understanding these archetypes and the patterns they represent,
Yeah.
we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and
Mm.
the world around us.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all of this fits together.
Yeah.
But we've been talking a lot about the hero and the good stuff.
Right.
Don't myths also warn us about the dangers of becoming too rigid?
Oh, you're exactly right.
Like clinging to outdated traditions.
Peterson actually uses the example of the sun-devouring king to illustrate that.
The sun-devouring king,
Yeah.
what exactly does that mean?
Well, it's this archetype that shows up in a lot of myths and stories.
Okay.
The basic idea is that even necessary structures,
Okay.
like culture and tradition, can become tyrannical
Okay.
if they're not renewed and adapted
Oh.
to changing circumstances.
Okay.
The sun-devouring king represents like this rigid adherence to the past,
Huh.
a refusal to let go of outdated ways of thinking and being.
So it's like those old traditions are literally consuming the next generation.
Exactly.
Wow.
Preventing them from growing and evolving.
That's intense.
And this ties into the idea of the revolutionary hero,
Okay.
someone who challenges the status quo and brings about necessary change,
Right.
even if it's met with resistance.
Like figures like Martin Luther King Jr. or Nelson Mandela.
Exactly. They challenge these deeply ingrained systems of oppression
Yeah.
and help to create a more just and equitable world.
That's a really powerful way to think about it.
Yeah.
So it's not always about maintaining order.
Right.
Sometimes it's about disrupting it in a way that leads to something better.
Exactly. And this brings us to another important concept that Peterson explores,
Okay.
the importance of pursuing genuine interests.
Okay, how does that tie into all of this? What does following your passions have to do with myths and heroes?
Well, Peterson believes that pursuing what truly interests us
Yeah.
is essential for individual growth and meaning-making.
Okay.
He actually shares a story about a paranoid patient to illustrate the dangers of denying meaning in life.
Okay.
This patient was completely withdrawn,
Wow.
isolated,
Yeah.
and unable to engage with the world in a meaningful way.
So he was stuck,
Yeah.
unable to move forward on his own hero's journey.
Precisely. And Peterson argues that this is what happens when we deny ourselves the opportunity to pursue our passions,
Yeah.
to confront the unknown, and to expand our horizons.
He was serving the lie.
Yes. Instead, we should be seeking truth, following our curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
and engaging with life in a way that feels meaningful.
Right.
And that's where the hero's journey comes in again. It's not about seeking comfort and security.
Right.
It's about venturing out into the unknown,
Yeah.
facing those dragons,
Facing those dragons.
and returning with the treasures that enrich both ourselves and the world.
That connects back to those maps of meaning we were talking about.
Absolutely. Those maps aren't just about avoiding danger.
Right.
They're also about seeking out what's valuable, what's meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
And that often involves stepping outside of our comfort zones,
Yeah.
challenging our assumptions,
Yeah.
and embracing the unknown.
It's like we have to get lost sometimes to really find ourselves, right?
Yeah, kind of like Peterson talks about, when he felt lost.
Oh, yeah.
And he shares that story
Yeah.
about that nightmare he had,
Oh, yeah, with the chandelier.
right, where he's trapped in this chandelier
Uh-huh.
hanging high above a cathedral.
All right, and everyone's looking at him.
Exactly. All these people
Wow.
judging him.
Yeah, and he feels totally powerless.
He can't change his situation.
Right, it's like he's caught in this web of meaning, but it's suffocating him.
It's not supporting him.
Right.
It's holding him back.
Yeah, and then he wakes up,
Right.
and there's that wind blowing.
Yeah, that strong wind.
That strong wind blowing through his windows.
And, he connects that to pneuma.
Pneuma.
Yeah, that Greek word.
That means both wind and spirit.
It's like this breath of fresh air,
Right.
this intrusion of the spiritual realm
Yeah.
into his conscious reality.
It's like the universe is trying to wake him up.
Yeah, shake him out of it
Yeah.
to show him that there's more to life than his narrow perspective.
It makes me think about how we can get so stuck in our own heads.
Absolutely. We get stuck in our own limited ways of seeing the world.
Yeah.
And it takes something dramatic sometimes,
Yeah.
even something painful.
Right, to break us out of those patterns.
Exactly. And that's where his idea of maps of meaning comes in again. He
Well,
talks about how we have these two systems of knowing,
okay.
the knowing how system and
Right.
knowing what system.
Okay, so what's the difference between those?
Well, knowing how is like our procedural knowledge,
Okay.
like riding a bike or tying your shoes.
Yeah.
You just do it.
Right.
You don't have to think about it.
And then knowing what is more about our, like, conceptual understanding of the world.
Exactly. It's the kind of knowledge that we can articulate,
Mm-hmm.
the kind that allows us to describe and explain things.
Okay.
And Peterson argues that mythology kind of serves as a bridge.
Between the two.
Yeah, between those two systems.
So myths are giving us both a practical guide for living and a way to understand the meaning behind those actions.
Exactly. And it's through those narratives that we transmit knowledge across generations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like the stories we tell.
Yeah.
Whether they're ancient myths or personal anecdotes,
Right.
they're essential for preserving and transmitting like cultural and psychological wisdom.
That makes you think about the stories that have shaped your own life.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like the ones you've inherited from your family, your culture.
Even the ones you tell yourself about who you are.
Right. Those stories create our personal maps of meaning.
Yeah.
Like the frameworks we use to navigate the world.
It's like our own internal compass.
Exactly. But Peterson also highlights the danger of becoming too rigid in those beliefs.
Right, like the sun-devouring king.
Yeah, clinging to those outdated traditions.
Right.
It can stifle growth and renewal.
And he contrasts that with the paranoid patient.
Yes. The one who is trapped by his own fear and inability to engage with life in a meaningful way.
Yeah, it's like the hero's journey in reverse.
Exactly. Instead of venturing out into the unknown,
Right.
he's retreating further into himself.
Yeah.
And this connects to another fascinating idea that Peterson explores.
Okay, what is it?
The divinity of interest.
The divinity of interest. What does that even mean? How is interest divine?
Well, Peterson believes that pursuing genuine interests is like essential
Okay.
for individual growth and meaning-making.
Okay.
He sees it as a form of serving truth.
Aligning ourselves with the inherent value and meaning that's present in the world.
So it's not just about like following our whims or whatever.
Right.
It's about listening to that deeper calling.
Exactly, like that sense of fascination and curiosity that draws us towards certain things.
Yeah. Like when you're reading a book and you can't put it down.
Yes. Or when you're working on a project
Mm-hmm.
and you completely lose track of time.
It's like tapping into that source of energy and inspiration.
Exactly. And Peterson contrasts this with the lie,
Okay.
which is essentially the denial of meaning.
Right.
It's this attempt to shield ourselves from the unknown,
Yeah.
to avoid the challenges and uncertainties that come with exploring the world and ourselves.
But that avoidance ultimately leads to stagnation and despair.
Right. It's like we're starving our souls
Yeah.
by denying them the nourishment that comes from engaging with life.
So we need to confront the unknown.
Exactly. And face those dragons
Yeah.
and return with the treasures that enrich ourselves and the world.
That's the hero's journey.
That's the hero's journey.
Yeah.
And Peterson seems to argue that this process of transformation
Yeah.
is actually a moral imperative.
It's like the highest form of good.
It's what allows us to grow and contribute to the betterment of ourselves and society.
Wow. He even says that the ability to confront the unknown is what makes us human.
Yeah, it's the source of our creativity, our resilience, our capacity for love and compassion.
It's amazing how he connects those ancient ideas about mythology and alchemy to our modern lives.
Right. It's not just these abstract concepts.
Yeah.
They're fundamental to how we make sense of the world.
Right. And our place in it.
And he leaves us with that thought-provoking question.
Oh, what's that?
If myths are maps,
Yeah.
what does your personal map of meaning look like?
It's like he's inviting us to explore our own inner landscapes.
Yeah.
To face those dragons that lurk in the shadows.
Exactly.
And to discover the treasures that lie hidden within.
It's a call to embrace the hero's journey.
Yeah.
To step outside our comfort zones and engage with life in a way that's meaningful and transformative.
And it's a reminder that the journey is ongoing.
Always more to learn, more to discover, more to become.
Yeah. It really is a journey. And like you were saying, the map isn't static, is it?
Right? It's constantly changing.
It's like being redrawn as we go, you know?
Exactly, as we have new experiences.
Yeah.
And learn new things.
That's what I find so empowering about Peterson's approach,
Mhm.
is like, we're not just passive recipients. you know?
Right.
We're active creators.
Exactly. We have the capacity to shape our own destinies.
So it's not just about finding the right map. It's
Yeah.
also about learning to read it
Mhm.
and even to draw our own maps as we go.
Exactly. And he talks about this in the context of the alchemists
Okay.
and their quest for the philosopher's stone.
Oh, yeah, remind me. How does alchemy fit into all this?
Okay, so we were talking about myths,
Yes, and psychology.
right? But Peterson sees alchemy as this metaphor
Okay.
for the process of personal transformation. Like the alchemists were trying to transform base metals into gold,
Right.
but they were also trying to transform themselves,
Interesting.
purify their souls and attain a higher state of being.
So the process of turning lead into gold
Yeah,
was symbolic of the process of like inner transformation.
exactly. And that process involved confronting the unknown, breaking down old structures,
Okay.
and creating something new.
Just like the hero's journey.
Just like the hero's journey. It was a process of psychological and spiritual growth.
And gold played a key role in that process,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Gold represented something pure
Okay.
and incorruptible, like a higher ideal that they were striving for.
And that connects to the idea of enlightenment in like a broader sense.
Yeah, it's about seeking those eternal truths,
Right.
those guiding principles that can help us navigate life.
Not about achieving perfection, but like constantly refining ourselves.
Exactly, becoming more conscious and more compassionate.
Peterson has this quote that really stuck with me.
Oh yeah, which one?
He says, "The truth seems painfully simple. So simple that it's a miracle of sorts, that it can ever be forgotten. Love God with all thy mind and all thy acts and all thy heart."
Wow, powerful stuff.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily about religious belief.
Right.
It's about aligning ourselves with something greater than ourselves, something that gives our lives meaning and purpose.
And he goes on to say, this means serve truth above all else and treat your fellow man as if he were yourself, not with the pity that undermines his self-respect and not with the justice that elevates you above him, but as a divinity, heavily burdened who could yet see the light.
Yeah, it's a beautiful call to compassion.
It is.
To see the worth and dignity of every human being.
Regardless of their circumstances.
We're all in this together, right?
We are. We all have our own struggles, our own burdens to bear.
But we all have the capacity for greatness.
Yes. For transformation.
Love.
It's about recognizing that potential in ourselves and in others.
You know, as we're talking about all this, it's amazing how Peterson brings all these different ideas together.
I know, it's incredible.
Myths, psychology, spirituality, even alchemy.
It's like he's weaving a tapestry of human experience.
He is, showing us how it's all interconnected.
And he leaves us with this incredible sense of hope,
Yeah.
like this belief that we have the power to shape our own destinies.
It's inspiring. It challenges us to embrace the hero's journey.
To confront the unknown.
And live lives of meaning and purpose.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into maps of meaning, I really encourage you to reflect on what we've discussed.
What resonates with you?
Yeah, what insights have you gained?
How can you apply these ideas to your own life?
What are the dragons you need to face?
What treasures are you seeking?
Remember, the journey is ongoing.
Yeah.
There's always more to explore, more to discover, and more to become.
So keep asking those questions.
Keep seeking those answers.
And keep telling your story.
Because that's what makes life an adventure worth living.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Jordan Peterson's Maps of Meaning.
We'll see you next time.
For another exploration of the ideas that shape our world.